Morning. The word today is from Luke 5, chapters 1 to 11. So it was, as the multitude pressed around him to hear the word of God, that he stood by the lake of Gennesaret and saw two boats standing by the lake. But the fishermen had gone from them and were washing their nets. Then he got into one of the boats, which was Simon's, and asked him to put out a little from the shore. And he sat down and taught the multitudes from the boat. When he had stopped speaking, he said to Simon, "Launch out into the deep and let down your nets for a catch." But Simon answered and said to him, "Master, we have toiled all night and caught nothing. Nevertheless, at your word, I will let down the net." And when they had done this, they caught a great number of fish, and their net was breaking. So they signaled to their other partners in the other boat to come and help. And they came and filled both the boats so that they began to sink. Then Simon Peter saw it, and he fell down at Jesus' knees, saying, "Depart from me, for I am a sinful man, my Lord." For he and all who were with him were astonished at the catch of fish which they had taken. And so also were James and John, the sons of Zebedee, who were partners with Simon. And Jesus said to Simon, "Do not be afraid. From now on you will catch men." So when they had brought their boats to land, they forsook all and followed him. Amen.
Thank you so much. Well, good morning, everyone. Lovely to be back with you again. For those of you that don't know me, my name is John, and some of the people in this church have had to part with me periodically for about 30 years, I think, which, trust me, is more than enough for anyone. But what you also might not know if you don't know me is that I spend most of my working life these days as a sporting journalist, for better or worse for those that have to read my stuff. And I'm really bringing you a text this morning because I'm aware that this is the beginning of a year, really. And I'm bringing you this morning a text that spoke to me more than any other last year when I was in your position, sitting in congregation listening to somebody else teaching. So I thought I'd kind of pass it on. But I was in a situation last summer where I spent most of my summer reporting cricket, and I was at an outground, sitting in a marquee, putting together a few notes of what I'd seen in front of me for the day's play to summarise it at the end for the various people that I circulate stuff out to. And my Scottish friend was in the marquee with me, my Scottish friend Steve. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, he said to me, "John, you should write a book. You should write a book about cricket." And as I normally do, I said, especially when Steve said things, I said, "Yes, Steve, of course I can." And didn't pay any more attention and carried on writing my stuff. The next time I saw him, I was at Lord's and we were in the media centre and we'd been chatting during the day, and he said, "John, you should write a book." And I said, "Yes, Steve, of course I should." And I just carried on. And then we were at Lord's again another time, and he said, "John, you should write a book." Now, I'm fairly dense, but I suddenly thought to myself, hold on a minute. Is this really Steve, or is there something else at play here? Is this God suggesting something to me that perhaps I have buried for one reason or another? And the upshot of it all is, I'm now writing a book. It's a very bizarre thing. Collecting lots of information together and facing the prospect of writing 85,000 words by the end of March, which could be fun. Now, why am I telling you that story? Well, because I did a quick add up, and I reckon this is my 42nd New Year as a Christian. And I remember a number of the early ones where I was a real firebrand, sharing my faith with willing victims or otherwise. Some people at South Oxford will remember me like that. A few of you are old enough to remember that. I was devouring every sermon I could, every conference, every adventure. And if we're honest, there comes a point where it gets a bit boring. Can you relate to them? Anybody else relate to that? Everything becomes that same old sermon. Do you know what I mean? And I can hear the cogs of some of you thinking, well, that's all very well, but you're about to speak on Luke 5, which is one of those well-known stories of Jesus there is. So what you're doing is you're now bringing us a pair of old socks. And I get it. But this is a bid to find something unfamiliar in the familiar, if you will. So just go with me. Here is my basic premise for the morning, which I'm going to dig into with you. And it's this. What would it mean for you in 2023 for out into the deep? What would it mean? What would it look like? What would it mean for South Oxford Baptists to launch out into the deep? What would it mean? What would it look like? For me, last year, one of the things it looked like was somebody saying, John, what do you want to do? Now, the context of this incident is there are disciples like Peter and John who they've met Jesus. They don't know each other that well yet. They're in the kind of getting to know him phase. They've seen him a few times, they've heard him a few times, but it's early days. And in the early verses of this text, Jesus is teaching the people who gathered by the shore of Gennesaret. And unusually, we're not told what he was teaching. Why are we not told what he was teaching? Because that wasn't the point. This isn't about a sermon that Jesus gave. This is about an encounter that's going to arise from the sermon that Jesus gave. It's going to be Peter's encounter. It could be your encounter. Could be. What we do know about this incident is, because there are so many people on the shore, Jesus has to get a little bit of room so that he can speak. And so he says to Peter, excuse me, Peter, can I have your boat? Or in actual fact, it even looks as if he climbs into his boat and says, I'm commandeering your boat, that's all right, isn't it, Peter? So he doesn't seem to get an awful lot of option, really. And you have to bear in mind as well that Peter's washing down his nets because he's spent the entire night fishing. So I wonder how much of the teaching that went before he actually heard. He was probably part of the congregation sitting there listening to Jesus supposedly teaching, not taking a lot in. You know what? That reminds me of me sometimes, a sermon kind of what you don't know. So if that's you this morning, I'm not offended, it's fine. Dare we suggest that in actual fact, Peter was thinking, look, this teaching in my boat is all very well, Jesus, but I've been fishing all my time in this thing. We've all been, that's fine. But Jesus says at the end of this piece of teaching, he turns to Peter and he says, "Bow into the deep and bow your nets for a change." Right. If I'm Peter, I'm really excited about that, right? I've been washing down my nets, I'm absolutely shattered. All I want is something to eat in my bed, particularly as I've caught nothing. But the question is, how are you hearing that? Yeah, how are you hearing that word from Jesus? Are you hearing pounds of things, pound your nets with pen? Or are you hearing Peter? Pound to the team. Pound your nets for pen. In other words, are you hearing an order? Because if you are, it's going to make you bristle. If you're anything like me, you're going to go, "Oh, right, okay." Or are you hearing an invite? Are you hearing an invite to pound your nets for pen? Because the thing is, Jesus never wastes them. You see, in the wake of the sermon that I heard last year, and this was even before somebody had said to me, "Why don't you write a book?" I thought to myself, "I've been a Christian for 41 years. What does that mean? What does it even mean to put out your nets for pen?" And I was in the sermon a few weeks later, and I can't tell you what the sermon was about. I absolutely can't tell you what it was about. It was another one of those mornings where it was something a bit fuzzy and going over the top of my head. Yeah, it happens to all of them. And God said to me, he does this, he interrupts me sometimes, speaks in with my head. A bit weird, but he said, "Make sure you visit the bookshop today before you go home, because we've got a little bookshop in the back of that church." And I thought, "Oh, okay." So I went to the bookshop and I said, "What am I looking for?" And he said, "Well, I think you're looking for this book." Now, weirdly, bear in mind, the sermon that started me off was 4 chapters deep, let's repent. And I walked into the bookshop, and there was a book in there called Deeper. How weird is that, right? A book called Deeper by a chap called Dane Orwood. If you read one book this year, read this book. And the reason is, the premise of this book, as I discovered, was that the author says that the wisdom of God is unsearchable. That's a quote from Ephesians. Wisdom of God is unsearchable. Therefore, it's deep. He says Ephesians 3 calls Christ's riches unsearchable. So, what does it mean that there are riches in Christ, that these riches are unsearchable, that we can dig and dig, but never hit the bottom of them? And he says, as you wade into this book, let me propose an idea. Let me suggest that you consider the possibility that your current mental idea of Jesus is the tip of the iceberg. That there are wondrous depths to him, realities about him still awaiting your discovery. Now, bearing in mind, I'm reading this as a person that's been a Christian for 41 years. And the premise I'm being faced with is that however far I have gone into the unsearchable riches of Jesus, that actually I've scraped the tip of the iceberg. So he's saying. So he's saying, I'm not disregarding the real discipleship already at play in your life and the true discoveries of the depths of Jesus that you've already made. But let me ask you to open yourself up to the possibility that one reason you see modest growth and other things going on in your life that you don't want, if that's indeed the case, is that the Jesus you're following is a junior varsity Jesus, an unwittingly reduced Jesus, an unsurprising and predictable Jesus. I'm not saying that's the case, I'm just asking you to test yourself and see. When Christopher Columbus reached the Caribbean in 1492, he named the native Indians, thinking he had reached what Europeans at the time referred to as the Indies, China, Japan, and India. In fact, he was nowhere close to South or East Asia. In his path were vast regions of land, unexplored and uncharted, of which Columbus knew nothing. He assumed the world was smaller than it was. Have we made a similar mistake with regard to Jesus? Are there tracts of who he is, according to the biblical revelation, that are unexplored? Have we unintentionally reduced him to manageable, predictable proportions? Have we been looking at a junior varsity, decaffeinated, one-dimensional Jesus of our own making, thinking that we're looking at the real Jesus? And this is the thing that really got to this last sentence here. Have we snorkeled in the shadows, thinking we've now hit the bottom of the Pacific? Have we snorkeled in the shadows, thinking we've hit the bottom of the Pacific? In other words, if you've been snorkeling in the shadows, brilliant. Brilliant. That's where your journey's been. That's great. That is. Don't be crying. It's great. But there might be an invitation for you. Scuba dive into the depths. If you're up with it. It's an invite, it's not normal. See, when Jesus starts a thought, he pursues it. And so Jesus says to Peter, they're in it for a change. And Peter's response is exactly like mine would be. And so often it. He says, we fished all night and caught. Or, as we might paraphrase it these days, Jesus, are you having a laugh? Right? Are you having a laugh? Don't you realise what I've been doing for the last 9 hours or whatever it is? Right? You see, there are always reasons, and Peter had good reasons for not wanting to take up Jesus' invite. He was disappointed. Some of the things that he'd travelled through and he'd been through with Jesus had made him disappointed, even at this stage. And he'd only known Jesus 5 minutes. If you walked with Jesus for 41 years or even more, some of you, you'll have encountered disappointment. Let's be honest, you will. He was tired. He fished all night and caught nothing. Disappointment and fatigue often go together. Not only that, the timing was wrong. The timing was completely wrong. You know, you could have been thinking to yourself, Jesus, I think you're a great teacher and you're a great carpenter, mate, but you're a lousy fisherman. You make a lousy fisherman because you want to fish at the time of the day when there are no fish out there to catch anyway. If there weren't any fish at night when we're supposed to catch them, there certainly won't be any now. The timing's all wrong. Is Jesus saying to you, it's time to walk out to the deep, and you're saying, well, that's great, Jesus, but the time. Don't you know, I've got this, got that happening in the family unit. I've got this going on. Just a long time. There was the issue for Peter of personal humiliation. He thought, if I take my boat in front of all these other fishermen who are washing down their nets, and I launch out into the deep, I'm going to catch nothing. Because it's the wrong time of day, and boy, am I going to look stupid. So I don't want this in life, I don't want to plan. How often is that our reason for life? Launching out into the deep. You see, I and self will always opt for shadows and shallows out of self-preservation. And we'll miss the depths. Why else would he go? Because he was afraid. He was afraid of the chaos that he would find in the deep. Jews hated deep water. They hated it. Water was always a sign, deep water was always a sign of chaos. It was always a sign of something which was beyond their ability to handle. And he was afraid that the chaos of the deep would take him beyond the currents in which he put so much store. He was a fisherman, he was supposed to be able to fish. Yet the water might overwhelm him. Therefore, better to stay in shadows. And yet the voice keeps coming. That is the yes. Sometimes it's our very abilities which intimidate us. Maybe I'm not as good at this as I thought. What if I mess this up? If I could tell you the number of times that I've had that thought since I launched into trying to write a book, it would take me a long time to tell you about. I am way. I'm dealing with issues of images and pictures and copyright and having to clean. I could end up with 85,000 words of copy, because that's the bit I know about. No pictures to go with it. I'm out of my depth, I've got to tell you. There's always a what if. There's always a but. There always will be. Whenever there's a challenge to launch into the deep, there will always be a but. That's just the way it is. See, if you're thinking about, as a church, launching into the deep, thinking beyond yourself, this is a really hard time to do it, right? Because we're in a financial crisis, okay? I don't know whether I can heat my house. I don't know whether I should choose between heating and eating. It's a time when it looks like everything should be made smaller, okay? Everything should be compressed, much smaller. Because I've got to survive, we've got to get through it. Looks like you're dealing with some pretty big issues in the church, you know. We've just called Christine sick. It's time to kind of batten down the hatches and hold on, right? Jesus says, hey, let down your head structure. Oh boy. The deep stretches us beyond ourselves, beyond our safe place. The weird thing is here, Peter accepts the adventure. He takes the adventure on. Not in the absence of all the things that we've mentioned above, not in the absence of disappointment, fatigue, fear, possible humiliation. Takes on the challenge in spite of all of that. And that's faith. That's faith. It's not faith or fear. It's not faith or doubt. It's not faith or fatigue. It's not faith or disappointment. It's faith in the face of disappointment, fatigue, bad timing, humiliation, fear. It's seeing a situation as it is and doing anything. That's what it actually. See, the other thing I did this last year was I had dreamt for a very long time. And when I say a very long time, I mean since I was about 7 or 8. Of being in broadcast journalism. I've only ever been in written journalism. When I was a kid, some of you may relate to this, some of you may think this is completely bonkers. My dad, bless him, who's 86 and still wonderful, used to say if he was watching a sporting event, he didn't need a commentator because he had me. Right? So you would turn down the volume and I would commentate over the top and he would laugh. And I was also one of these kids who, if I was running down the road and I was kind of racing to get somewhere, I'd imagine I was in some great stadium taking part in some great race, you know what I mean? And I'd be commentating on the fact that I was catching the leader. Because that's the sort of thing I did. But the opportunity to be in broadcast journalism never arose. And then last year, while I was in the midst of launching out into the deep, I saw this ad for people looking for audio commentators, and I thought, you know what? It'd be stupid not to try, wouldn't it? So sent a thing in with a demo, blah blah, nothing happened. Then sent another demo to someone else, still nothing happened. Eventually got a note back from the chap saying, "Hi John, got your thing, about to go on holiday, need to talk to you about it, be in touch." Nothing happened. That was July. And then one Monday morning in October, I woke up, fetched my phone from where it was charging. I charged my phone overnight. And there was a message in it saying, "Hi John, this is Jon Batham from livesport.com. We'd like to invite you to join our team." And I went, well, it obviously doesn't say that, so I'll read it again. So I read it again and it said, "Hi, this is Jon Batham. We'd like to invite you to join our team." 50 years. 50 years. What giants are these? Let them answer. And do you know what? Peter embraces this. He goes in spite of everything. And in a way, everything that he thinks is going to happen does happen. Because the depths means chaos. A huge catch against all expectation. Peter's completely beyond his ability to control it, despite his level of expertise. He's in way over his head. But here's the thing. The illusion that we're ever in control of anything is just that, it's an illusion. We're never actually in control of anything, we just think we are. And sometimes Jesus has to do things to show us that we're not. So he takes us in deliberately over our head to the point where we're so far into the depths that we can't put our feet on the bottom. And then we have to rely on somebody else. And he has to call on all his friends, bring their boats to share the catch. Peter, the great self-sufficient one, has to keep it out. There's a lesson learned in depth. There's going to be times this year, South Baptist, when you are, and I think you're probably in one now, in light of what we've heard this morning, where you're really up to your neck and you can't put your feet on the bottom. But as with Peter, it was a place where God has put you and he wants you to be. Because here's the other thing. Revelation comes in the deep. Revelation comes when I'm in it over my head. Peter gets this great revelation about Jesus and said, "Depart from me, I'm a sinful man." In that moment, there's a loss of ego and a loss of self-importance. He's not in charge. Let me tell you, since I started doing audio commentary on football, I'm in way over my head. Seriously, way over my head. I did a tutorial where the chap said, this is audio commentary. People are choosing to listen to audio commentary. They have no pictures. If you stop talking, they lose connection. They have nothing. Therefore, every time the ball goes dead, you've still got to be talking. You have to have enough things to talk about to fill 95 minutes and more. That's challenging. It involves audio equipment about which I'm completely clueless. Yes, I'm over my head. But Peter is learning the deep that something greater than himself is in. Something deep of Jesus is revealed. Another step is taken from his journey. It's a scuba dive into the deep. So you cannot add to Jesus, you can only delve into him. Jesus says, follow me, you will learn to fish for men. See, far from departing, Jesus actually steps closer and invites Peter to do the same. And it says they left everything and they followed him. Well, clearly they fished again. We know from reading the scripture that they fished again. But something was never quite the same. And so we ask again, in conclusion, what would it mean for you to step out into the deep this year? Is there something that Jesus has on your heart to which your answer is yes, but what about? Is it something you want to say yes, but you go, but what about this? How am I going to deal with this? What am I going to do with this? What's so-and-so going to say? You know what? That's a perfectly fine question to ask. Question is, can you get from there to nevertheless, because you say something, I'm going to try to do. Even though I see all these things, even though I see all these barriers, launch out into the deep. What does it mean for South Oxley as a family to step out into the deep? To face we've fished all night, we've been down this road before, we've caught nothing, nevertheless, we're launch out into the deep. I just want to close with the verse, the song that I've become fairly acquainted with over the last few years. It's a song called Oceans, which some of you may know, some of you may not. And it says, "You call me out from the water, the great unknown, where feet may fail. There I find you in the mystery of oceans deep, my faithful sin. Grace is found in deepest water. There I find you in the mystery of oceans deep." That's my prayer for you as a family, as individuals, and for myself, that we might launch out into the deep this year and let them next year. Why don't you stand in front? Lord, there may be some of us for whom that's an old familiar sermon. It's floated over our head. And if so, that's fine. But Father, if you spark something in an individual or among the church family, then I pray that you pursue it with them. That they might launch out into things, let down their nets for a catch. Whether that means pursuing something that they've always felt was beyond them, they've always been afraid to do, or whether it just means pressing into something of you that they want to explore, whatever that might be. Father, bless this family, bless them at a time when their new pastor is struggling. Father, bless Crispin, who's in the deep. May you bring him revelation with him. Just bless this family, Jesus.
We've got a lot to respond to in this morning service. So